Right when I stepped out to buy fresh figs, my son texted me. "Oh, you mom, please leave the house for a few days. Mira's parents want privacy. Dainda. They forgot one thing. This house is mine. A Fontaine free." What happened next made her own parents beg my son to divorce her. Dear listeners, before we begin this difficult story, I want to ask you a favor. If my story resonates with your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel and write in the comments which city or state you are listening from. Tump. The afternoon sun pressed against my shoulders as I walked through the narrow lane leading to the seaside market. Warm wind moving through salt-heavy air, fig baskets stacked in pyramids, vendors shouting in rhythmic cadences. For a moment I felt like myself again. Elira Kane, the architect who once commanded entire construction crews, with a single raised eyebrow, not the quiet, invisible woman I had become in my own home. I picked up a cluster of dark, ripe figs, their skin splitting from sweetness. A small, comforting ritual. Clank. Then my phone vibrated. I didn't check immediately. Some messages are better left waiting, but it buzzed again and again, and when I finally looked, Darian's name flashed across the screen. My breath stilled. "Oh, Mom. Mira's parents want some private family time. It'll only be for a week. Please move to a hotel. We'll reimburse the costs." A single sentence, a single, clean cut. For a moment the market faded. The voices, the heat, the smell of salt and spices, all muffled under the weight of a truth I had been avoiding for far too long. My son had grown accustomed to my silence. I reread the message. Not once, twice, three times, until the sting softened into something colder, sharper. Tech. They wanted me, the woman who designed every corner of Aurelian Cove, to leave it like an unwelcome guest. Mira's parents, Roderick and Sabine Salas, had spent the entire morning criticizing my cooking, my furniture, my dated taste. Mira herself had waved her wine glass across my roses and declared, "Yo, we'll tear half of this down when the remodel starts. Modern minimalism, Mom. Try to keep up." And now this text, a final blow. There. In the middle of the market, I closed Darian's message. I didn't reply with anger. I didn't lecture, cry, or beg for respect. I typed only one word, understood, not agreement. A warning. Can't. Because I wasn't going to a hotel, I was going to reclaim my life. Eck. I slipped the figs back onto the vendor's table. I didn't need them anymore. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled down to a name I hadn't touched in years. Cale Draven, private buyer and developer. The kind of man who didn't knock. He arrived. I pressed call. His voice answered on the first ring. "Ms. Kane. Didn't expect to hear from you, Cale," I said quietly. "Are you still interested in prime coastal property?" A pause. A click of interest, always why. I looked toward the distant silhouette of my home. Ken, because I'm ready to sell Aurelian Cove. Today. And with that, the first crack in their perfect illusion began to spread. The drive back from the market felt different, lighter, almost hollow. Like the calm before a storm I had decided to create myself. I didn't return home immediately. Instead, I stopped at a small cafe overlooking the harbor and watched the fishing boat sway in the tide while Cale Draven confirmed his arrival time. 40 minutes, he said, not a request. A declaration. Cale wasn't the type to wait. Merte. He was the type whose arrival made others step out of the way. I sipped the bitter coffee, letting its sharpness steady me. My hands didn't tremble. My heart didn't race. A strange calm washed over me. The clarity that comes only when you've finally stopped caring about being well-liked. Fnac foreign Chexel sand. For years I had tolerated little insults. Mira's subtle jabs, Darian's excuses, the Salas's patronizing smiles. I endured them because mothers endure, because peace feels easier than a confrontation. Tren, because it's simpler to carry the hurt alone than to watch your child break under the truth. But today, I wasn't interested in being simple. When the cafe clock struck the half-hour mark, I adjusted the scarf around my neck, stood up, and walked toward Aurelian Cove. The road curved around the cliffside, sunlight hitting the ocean in flashes of molten silver. With each step, I felt my spine straighten. Enkudo. By the time I reached the gate, a black SUV already waited outside, engine humming like a caged animal. Kale Draven leaned against its door, broad shoulders filling a sand-colored linen suit, dark hair tied back, phone pressed to his ear as he barked orders into it. His presence alone felt like a force entering the scene. When he saw me, his voice dropped. "UK, wrap it up," he told someone. Then he hung up. "Ems." "Kane," he greeted, eyes flicking over me with sharp, assessing interest. "You sound different on the phone." "Different how?" I asked, like a woman who's done being polite. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Oh, Desmond, my old real estate contact, hurried toward us panting slightly. He had changed since I last saw him. His hair thinner, his glasses thicker, but his loyalty remained intact. "Kale," Desmond said, "I've brought the preliminary papers. If you two want to do a walkthrough, I'll start drafting the offer." Kale gestured toward the house. "Frank has bewerfer to Cefatet, Miss Kane." "Ike, lead the way, Miss Kane. I want to see what made you call me out of the blue." And we stepped through the wrought iron gate. Laughter drifted from the terrace. Mira's shrill, triumphant laugh, Roderic's booming arrogance, Sabine's nasal giggle echoing like hollow porcelain chimes. They were drinking my wine, eating my food, celebrating a victory they thought they'd earned. I could see Darian, too, smiling weakly, trying to fit into their world, unaware of how much of himself he'd already sacrificed. Kale noticed the sound. "Your guest?" he asked carefully. "For now," I replied. We climbed the stone path I laid with my own hands. Shabbat years ago, I felt every step like an oath. At the terrace entrance I paused. Kale stood behind me like a silent storm ready to be unleashed. "Ready?" he asked. I smiled, a small cold curve of the mouth. "They wanted privacy," I said. "Let's give them a moment they'll never forget." And with that, I opened the door. The moment the terrace door swung open, the entire scene froze. Mira's laughter died mid-note. "Yeah." Sabina's wine glass paused halfway to her lips. Roderic's thick eyebrows pulled together as if an intruder had stepped into his castle. And Darian, my son, looked like a child caught stealing from a candy jar. His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. "Kek, Mom," he stuttered, panic flickering in his eyes. "You?" Came back early. I didn't answer him. I didn't need to. Yo, Kale stepped in behind me. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't smile. He simply stood there, a looming presence in an expensive suit, radiating dominance the way some men radiate heat. Desmond followed, clutching documents and his briefcase. The Salas family collectively stiffened. Mira recovered first. Her acting was quick, too quick, Ems. "Kane," she exclaimed with forced brightness. "We thought you'd already checked into the hotel. Did they give you a nice room?" I told Darian to pick something comfortable. My son swallowed hard, unable to meet my eyes. I walked past her. "Ing?" Her smile wavered. "Actually," I said calmly, "I didn't check into any hotel." An uncomfortable shift went through the table. Aunt Sabine lowered her glass. "Oh?" "Then, why are you here?" Kale answered before I could. "Kate, to show my new property," he said lazily, surveying the terrace like a king examining new land. The words landed like a thunderclap. Roderick sat up straighter. "You're what?" Kale ignored him and turned to me with practiced charm. "Miss Kane, shall we begin the tour inside? Or do you want to finalize the key handoff here on the terrace?" Mira's jaw dropped. "Key handoff have? How?" she repeated. "What key handoff?" I placed a folder on the table. The papers inside were clean, crisp, official. "I've agreed to sell Aurelian Cove," I said, each word deliberate. "Mr. Draven is the buyer." Silence. A deep, suffocating silence. Darian's fork clattered onto his plate. Mom, what are you talking about? Aunt Mira burst into laughter, sharp, hysterical. You're joking! You can't sell this house. This is ours. Ours. We've invested in it. We've planned renovations. Mira? I met her gaze without blinking. This home is mine. Legally, fully. Solely. Sabine blinked rapidly. But you're listed as caretaker, right? Mira said you stayed here because you didn't want to live alone. Cale laughed once. A low, amused sound that seemed to vibrate through the room. Caretaker? He repeated. Lady, this entire property is in Miss Kane's name. Clean title. No loans. No company owner. No mortgage. I checked myself. Roderic's face turned red, slowly, from the neck upward, like a thermometer filling with fury. Mira, he growled, is this true? Mira's confidence shattered. Dad. I didn't. She's lying. Cale cut her off. Enough. I want to see the interior now. I turned toward the house. Come, I said, let's walk. And as I stepped toward the doorway, Mira's world, crafted from lies, manipulation, and borrowed luxury, began to crumble. We stepped into the living room. Sunlight filtering through the tall windows I had designed myself, scattering warm gold across the stone flooring. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, the air vibrated with tension so thick it almost hummed. Cale walked ahead, hands clasped behind his back, studying every inch of the space like a commander inspecting a battlefield. Mira trailed behind him, panic clinging to her like perfume gone sour. Wait, she snapped, forcing a smile that shook at the corners. This is a misunderstanding. You can't sell this house. We've put money into it. Cale paused, turned his head slightly, and raised a brow. Money? Darling, the plumbing hasn't been touched in 10 years. The windows are original custom builds. The roof. Perfect. Flooring? Untouched. Zero signs of renovation or investment. Sabine looked around, confused. But Mira said, You two remodeled the kitchen. We sent. Her voice dimmed into disbelief. Roderic's glare sharpened. Mira, tell me you didn't lie to us. Mira's throat bobbed. I may have exaggerated a little. But a little? Cale laughed. I pulled the property records. There has never been a loan, never been a lien, never been an outside owner. This house is as pure and untouched as they come. Sabine gripped the back of the sofa. Then where did our money go? Darian's eyes snapped to Mira, wide and wounded. Mom and Dad sent you money for what? Mira's mask began to crumble. It wasn't for me. It was for us. I told them we were paying a mortgage because I wanted them to understand that I am poor. I finished for her quietly. The room stilled. For the first time in years, Darian looked at me. Not as a background figure, not as the convenient mother who exists only to be summoned, but as a woman he had failed to defend. Yo, Mom, he whispered. I didn't know. I didn't respond. I didn't trust myself to. Cale continued his examination, tapping the walls lightly. Solid stone, he said with a nod. Architectural excellence. Hard to find this kind of craftsmanship anymore. Roderic's jaw ticked. And you're sure she's the sole owner? Cale gestured for Desmond. Desmond stepped forward quickly, fumbling with his briefcase, before pulling out the official title copy. Mr. Solace, he said respectfully. Alira Kane has been the sole owner of Aurelian Cove for 18 years. Her name appears on every permit, every upgrade, every tax filing. There is no legal or financial connection to your daughter or your son-in-law. None. Sabine gasped. One hand flying to her chest, Roderick turned slowly toward Mira. His voice was low, dangerous. 3 years. 3 years we sent you money, believing you were helping pay for their family home. You said you were drowning in loans. You said the house was newly bought. Mira backed away. Dad, please. How much allow of our retirement hafshawada to kalashapwad? He please ishtu. How much did you take? He hissed. How much of our retirement did you pocket? The cracks in Mira's empire of lies were no longer cracks. They were open fractures. And the collapse was just beginning. Mira's back hit the edge of the dining table, rattling the cutlery. Her eyes darted between her father's fury, Sabini's shock, Darian's hurt, and Cale's unwavering scrutiny. Every direction offered judgment. No escape. No allies left. Dad, listen. Mira tried again, her voice quivering. Roderick jabbed a finger at her. Answer the question. How much? She swallowed, lips trembling. Not that much. Sabine snapped. Mira, we sent you $5,000 every month. For 3 years, the math sliced through the room. Darian's knees seemed to buckle. 5,000? His voice cracked under disbelief. Every month? You told me your parents were helping with groceries, household things, birthdays. Mira shook her head violently. I did it for us. You don't understand. No, Darian whispered, betrayal washing over him. I don't. Cale tilted his head, amused, observing the emotional implosion, like expensive entertainment. Roderick pinched the bridge of his nose, trying to steady himself. You lied. You stole. And you humiliated your mother-in-law in the house she built with her bare hands. Mira spun toward me, rage sparking through her unraveling panic. You think you're better than me? She snapped. You think you can swoop in with your old-fashioned furniture and your sad widow act and manipulate everyone? This house should be ours. Darian and I are the future. You're just, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch, I simply spoke. The woman who owns this property, silence thick, heavy. Suffocating Mira's outburst in her own echo, Cale stepped closer to her. His presence was like standing beside a thundercloud. You enjoyed playing queen here, he said, voice low. Ordering Miss Kane around, planning renovations. Acting like the lady of the estate, his eyes hardened. But you're not the queen of anything. Not legally. Not financially. And certainly not ethically. Mira's eyes filled with tears. Not sorrow, but anger. Enkopter sen sporty soga, King spursing grad. You can't just take this away from us. You can't just take this away from us, she cried. You can't. Roderick slammed his fist against the table. You took it from yourself. Sabine covered her face, shoulders shaking. This was the mother who once praised Mira's ambition, who believed her daughter was clever, not dangerous. Darian turned toward me, his voice soft, broken. Mom, why didn't you tell me any of this? Why didn't you stand up to her sooner? I looked at him, really looked at him. Kay. The boy hiding inside the man. The son who had long forgotten to protect his mother. I was waiting for you to see it, I said. But sometimes the lights have to go out before someone realizes they were in the dark. Cale clapped once, sharp, decisive. Now, he said, shall we continue the tour? The master suite, perhaps? He wasn't rushing. He was heightening the pressure. Mira's breath came in ragged bursts. She sensed what was coming next. The truth that would destroy the last lie she clung to. And we were walking straight toward it. Cale moved through the hallway with slow, deliberate steps, running a hand along the textured plaster. He wasn't admiring the architecture anymore. He was letting the tension steep, letting Mira drown in her own unraveling story. Gal? Darian followed a few feet behind him, silent and pale, as if each revelation aged him years. Une. Roderick and Sabine walked together, but apart from their daughter, their faces carved with disappointment. Deeper than anger. That was the worst kind, because once disappointment sets in, forgiveness rarely follows. Okay? Mira trailed us like a shadow, tense, trembling, almost feral. Stop this, she hissed. All of you. Stop following her narrative. You're being manipulated. Cale didn't even look at her. Trust me, sweetheart. I don't get manipulated. I do the manipulating. We reached the master suite, the heart of Aurelian Cove. I opened the door. Light spilled across the polished floors, illuminating the hand-carved shelves, the tranquil ocean view. the woven rugs I had brought from my travels. Cale let out a low whistle. This is craftsmanship, he said. Everything, from the crown molding to the balcony stonework. It screams love, not money, Mira snapped. Exactly. Which is why this house should stay in the family, mine and Darian's. We're the next generation. It belongs to us. No, I corrected softly. It belonged to you only in the stories you invented. Mira's face contorted. Sabini stepped forward, voice trembling. Mira, you said you'd upgraded this entire suite last year. You even showed us receipts. You told us the balcony was unsafe and had to be rebuilt. Cale burst into laughter. Unsafe? Cale burst into laughter. Unsafe? He pushed open the balcony door effortlessly. This is reinforced stone, harder than half the high-rises I've seen. Sabine looked shattered. Receipts, Mira? Where did they come from? Mira's eyes darted wildly. I needed to show improvement so you'd understand why we needed money, why we needed help. I was just... Roderick's voice cut her off, raw and final. Stealing. Cacique. The word struck her harder than a slap. Darian leaned against the wall, breathing shallowly, staring at his wife as if seeing her for the first time. And then Mira played her final card. She stepped toward him, eyes suddenly soft, voice trembling in the way she knew, tore at his heart. Darian. Baby! None of it matters now. Her hand slid protectively to her stomach. Because I'm pregnant. The room went dead still. Yeah, Sabini gasped. Roderick froze. Darian's eyes widened, hope sparking desperately in them. But Cale looked at her with bored amusement. There it is. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Och, because truth has its own gravity, Darian whispered. Pregnant? Really? Mira nodded vigorously, playing the innocent mother-to-be. I was waiting to announce it when everything was peaceful. But she pointed at me, desperate, she's stressing me. This can't be good for the baby, panic, guilt, manipulation, all in one breath. She knew exactly what strings to pull. But I walked to the nightstand. There stood the champagne bottle from earlier, half finished. My champagne, my vintage. And next to Mira's plate on the terrace, she had emptied 2 generous glasses without hesitation. I lifted the bottle. Mira, I said calmly, you drank this today. I tilted it slightly. 12% alcohol. Her face drained of color. Roderick's jaw locked. Darian staggered back. Cale smirked. Congratulations, he murmured. You just proved your own lie. Mira's last lifeline snapped. The truth, at last, had nowhere left to hide. The room didn't just fall silent. It collapsed into a silence so sharp it could cut skin. Mira's hand dropped from her stomach. Her eyes darted wildly, searching for sympathy. Searching for someone to believe the lie she had just destroyed herself. No one moved. A cow. Darian stared at the champagne bottle in my hand, as though it were the smoking gun from a murder scene. Mira, he whispered, voice cracking, you drank 3 glasses. I saw you, her lips trembled. I took little sips. Doctors don't say pregnant women can guzzle champagne, Roderick barked. His voice thundered through the master suite. Enough, Sabini clutched her chest, horrified. Mira, why would you lie about something so sacred, so dangerous? Mira's breathing turned erratic. She backed away, palms raised, as if words could form a shield around her. And I thought I was pregnant, she cried. My period was late. I had symptoms. I felt it. Cale leaned against the balcony door, arms crossed. Convenient feeling, he drawled. Right when your world started burning. Rockin'. Darian sank onto the edge of the bed, head in his hands. Why, Mira? Why keep lying? Why drag a child into this? Ken. Mira reached for him, but he flinched away as if her touch might scorch him. Yeah, I did it for us. I did it for us. She insisted through tears, for OUR future. I needed leverage to stop her. She jabbed a shaking finger at me. She wants to take everything away from us. I stepped forward, meeting her eyes calmly. Mira, I didn't take anything from you. I simply stopped giving you what was never yours. Her breath hitched, rage overtaking panic. For chumpum warches basas a mawarkles a waikain. You can't do this, she spat. Darian won't abandon me. I'm his wife. He'll choose me. He always does, her voice wavered, half threat, half begging. Darian finally looked up, eyes hollowed out, the last thread of denial gone. Mira, he said slowly, painfully, I have stood by you for years. I ignored the warnings. Poor teeth. I ignored how you treated my mother. I ignored your entitlement. I ignored everything. Mira froze. But this? His voice cracked. Stealing from your parents, lying about the house, inventing a pregnancy, manipulating everyone? I can't ignore this. He stood up. And for the first time in his life, my son looked like a man. I'm done, he said. We're finished. On filing for divorce, Mira's scream echoed through the house. Raw, guttural, desperate. No! You can't leave me. You can't. She lunged toward him, gripping his shirt with clawed hands. You need me. Without me, you're nothing. You'll go back to being pathetic, boring, invisible. Kens Roderick pulled her off him with the force of a man who had reached his limit. Enough, he roared. You're coming with US. Before you bury yourself any deeper, Mira fought like a cornered animal. No. Dad, let go of me. Darian, help me. But Darian didn't move. He just stared, broken, exhausted, free. Cale finally spoke from the doorway, tone almost amused. Well, this is dramatic. But we're done here, aren't we, Miss Kane? Time to wrap this show. Ukul Roderick dragged Mira toward the hall while Sabini wept silently. Their empire of lies had fallen, stone by stone. But the final hammer had not yet dropped. That moment was still coming. Mira thrashed like a trapped animal as Roderick dragged her down the hallway, her nails scraping against the wall, leaving jagged marks on the paint. Paputter fafa paffer topper of the station. Enk let go of me, she shrieked. Darian. Her voice cracked, strangled by the realization that no one, not her husband, not her mother, not even her own father, was standing on her side anymore. Sabine followed behind them, shoulders trembling as silent tears ran down her face. Everything she believed about her daughter had shattered in one afternoon. Cale stepped aside lazily to let them pass, as if watching actors exit a stage after their final scene. Once the Solaces disappeared around the corner, Cale turned to me. Impressive, he said. If I ever need someone for negotiations, I'm calling you. I didn't smile. This isn't a negotiation, Cale. This is a reckoning, he grinned. Even better, Darian still stood near the master bed, staring blankly at the floor. He looked like someone who had just woken from a long nightmare, disoriented by the sudden daylight. Mom, he whispered. What do I do now? I exhaled slowly, steadying myself. This was the moment I had avoided for years. The moment he finally needed to grow up. Alone. You take responsibility, I said quietly. You go with her parents. You support them as they deal with the damage she caused. You file the paperwork you need to. And you rebuild yourself. His voice cracked. Can I come home later? I looked at him. The boy I raised, the boy who never learned to protect himself, let alone anyone else. The boy who was finally learning pain. Not yet, I said gently but firmly. Aurelian Cove is closed for you until you stand on your own feet. Not Mira's, not mine. Yours. His eyes glistened, but he nodded. For the first time he understood. Before he could speak again, a loud thump echoed from the front entrance. Then shouting. Aunt Roderick's booming voice, thick with fury. I don't care. Get in the car. Oaken. Mira's high-pitched wail. Oh, you're ruining my life. Sabini sobbing in Roderick. Please, don't shout. Cale chuckled under his breath. Should we check on them? No. I shook my head. Let them finish it themselves. A minute later, the front door slammed so hard the windows trembled. Silence fell across the entire house. A real silence this time. Not tense, not suffocating, but empty. Cleansed. Cal? Then Cale looked at me with a spark of mischief. So, he said, now that the pests are out, shall we finish our little transaction? Desmond perked up, almost dropping his briefcase. Yes, Rissa de Comptashal Patrissa Seeker Mender Shaptewect. Yes, let's finalize. Cale snapped his fingers. Bring me the contract. Darian looked up sharply. Mom. What? You're really ceasing gaunts? You're really selling? It's all gone? I met Cale's eyes. Then slowly, deliberately shook my head. No, I said. It's not gone. Not anymore, Cale raised a brow. Oh, change your mind? Kay. I walked to the terrace, letting the ocean breeze brush my face. I didn't call you to lose my home, I said softly. I called you to lose my chains. Cale laughed. A deep, approving sound. Now that is a woman I respect. He tore the contract in half. Clean, sharp. Frau, then tore it again. Desmond almost fainted. That takes care of the sale, Cale said. Now, how about we create a new deal, one that benefits you, not them? I turned back inside. The storm in my house had passed, but my next chapter was just beginning. The air inside Aurelian Cove felt reborn, quiet, balanced. Mine, no heavy voices, no false laughter, no shadows that didn't belong, just the soft hum of the ocean and the faint scent of roses drifting in through the open balcony door. Cale brushed the shredded contract pieces into Desmond's empty cup and stretched his shoulders with a satisfied sigh. Well, he said, that's one of the most entertaining real estate visits I've ever had. Desmond exhaled in relief. And I still get full commission, right? You do, I assured him. He nearly cried with joy. Kent Cale leaned on the balcony railing, looking out at the water. So, Elira, what now? Staying, renovating, enjoying the calm? I stepped beside him, letting the breeze push gently against my hair. No, I said. I'm leaving. He blinked. Leaving? This place for a little while, I clarified. Not forever. I want to see the world I always postpone for someone else's needs. It's time. A grin tugged at his lips. You get more interesting by the minute. He pulled out a sleek black card with a single embossed number. Then let me rent the place for the summer, at full price. No negotiation. My team will maintain everything, and I'll personally water the roses. If you promise to dot and answer when I send photos asking if I'm doing it wrong. I laughed softly. Deal, Desmond clapped like a man watching a happy ending. Perfect. I'll prepare the paperwork, Cale winked. Tomorrow. Not today. Today you celebrate your freedom. By evening they were gone. Aurelian Cove sat quiet under a golden sunset. No longer a cage or a battlefield, but a sanctuary again. My phone buzzed. Darian Keo, Mom. I'm at a hotel. Police took Mira in for questioning. Her parents are pressing charges. I'm sorry for everything. Kyo. I'm going to fix my life. Thank you for making me see the truth, I replied. Kino. 1 month. Stand on your own feet, become better, then call me, and I blocked Mira forever. Dawn the next morning, I stood at the gate with a single suitcase. Light, free, unburdened, the taxi waited patiently. As it carried me down the winding cliff road, I watched Aurelian Cove shrink behind me, glowing in the rising sun. Kate, I wasn't running away. I was stepping into the version of myself I'd buried for too long. Chopers, too long. At the airport my phone pinged again. Your flight to Rome is on time. I smiled. A new country. A new chapter, a new Elira Kane, and this time, my story begins with me. Amans. If this journey touched you, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more life stories like this. Your support keeps the stories alive.